going to talk about an old Cartoon Network show known as Courage the Cowardly Dog, about a dog that defends his owners that live out in the middle of nowhere. Take a look at the Courage the Cowardly Dog episode, King Ramses' Curse. Also, I want to apologize for the lack of uploads. I've been busy as heck lately. One thing I like about the show is the old-timey aesthetic. Example, the TV. They could have just drawn a black-in-the-box regular TV with no dials or anything, and it would have been a lot simpler to draw. But no, they went the extra mile to make it an old-timey TV, and the old-timey aesthetic really helps. Although the fact that they have a computer is a bit confusing. King Ramses' Curse?
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
An idiot sandwich, Chef Ramsay.
So it opens up on a night sky as a helicopter looks for a criminal that stole a monument of a king named King Ramses, and he throws it in Courage's backyard in a rush and then flees from the helicopter. And I gotta say, even though the criminals really aren't relevant to the plot of this episode and they're only on screen for a few minutes, they're really a joy to watch. Like the German fox, he was really entertaining. And then Courage digs up the monument and brings it to Muriel, and then Muriel shows it to Eustace.
Say it would be garbage.
Eustace, you're right, BuzzFeed is garbage. So what does Eustace decide to spend his $1 million on?
Right, new lawn chair.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
An archaeologist shows up wanting that artifact that Eustace have, but Eustace refused to give it because he won't give him $1 million. I'm so fancy I don't even need eyeballs. I must ask you a question. But like I said, Eustace refused, and then he hears a noise outside, so he goes to check it.
Return the slide.
Guys, I think I'm gonna need a new pair of underwear. I'll be right back. As I had to teleport and change my underwear. But let's talk about King Ramses' design. You know, that monster looking thing? The CGI-ness is old, but it's still terrifying. And not to mention that voice. That voice is great. So the oldness CGI, in a strange way, kind of makes it even more scary by making it kind of uncanny and unrealistic. So in a weird way, the old CGI kind of helped in this situation. King Ramses is going to use 3 different curses to curse Muriel and Eustace if Eustace doesn't give the artifact back. First, he's going to dislike your video and then leave a mean comment and then write a response video. King Ramses attacks Eustace and Muriel with evil locusts. Those darn locusts should have stayed in Africa. We should build a wall around those locusts. What do you think, President Cable? I agree. The locusts are defeated, so Ramses tries throwing a flood at them, but Courage stops the flood. Ramses plays a disco song about himself. Yes, I am serious. How does that work? He lived in Egypt way before there was disco music because he was a pharaoh.
It just raises too many questions.
Aside, the song is pretty good. I could see myself occasionally listening to this. King Ramses uses a dust storm, and Eustace gets swept away and buried alive, and the artifact gets returned and the episode ends. All in all, I love this episode. This episode, in my opinion, is probably my favorite Courage episode because it blends horror and comedy so well. Every character in this episode has tons of funny one-liners, such as Eustace. He steals the show in this episode, and that archaeologist is my favorite character in this episode. He just has so many funny one-liners, and his design is great. I love making jokes about him. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the entire Courage just because of how funny I found the scenes with him were. Even Muriel has a few good one-liners, but ironically, I would say the weakest character in this episode is Courage. I'm not saying he's bad, I'm just saying he's not as funny as everyone else in this episode because everyone else in this episode is written so darn good. We talked about the comedy. I say let's shift gears and talk about the horror of this episode. While this episode's horror is nothing special by today's standards, I guarantee you if you show King Ramses to a little kid, he'll be scared by the design and voice. Say though, the animation in those scenes at the beginning where the helicopter is looking for those criminals, those scenes are surprisingly well animated. Overall, the horror and comedy in this episode is fantastic. This episode is amazing. It's like a well put together puzzle where every piece just complements each other. I consider this to be the perfect Courage episode, and if you haven't seen Courage, I recommend checking out this episode. And until next time, next week we'll be taking a look at Inuyasha episode 1 and 2 English dub.